icebreaker is working really well. You're still breaking ice. Can I just ask a question? Has anybody filled their cards yet? Anybody 10 stickers already? I know one person that has it, but she's not in the room. Anybody 10 stickers already? No? 9? Come on. 9, 8? 8 stickers? No? Who's got 5 stickers? Oh, here we go. 5 stickers. 6 stickers. 6. John, you're leading the game at the moment. I feel like in an auction. 7 stickers. John, excellent. So you've got 7. So John Chapman and Henrik here, of course, are leading the game. Please come on. I mean, these guys are going to be drinking. Make sure that you all break the ice. We're going to start now again with a session, and to give myself a break, I have asked my colleague Melanie to lead you through the next part of the session, which is actually going to talk in more detail about the themes that I mentioned this morning: innovation, users, services, and clouds. So I hand over to Melanie Pankhurst, who is the activity leader for NA2, Communications and Promotion, and she's also head of communications in Dante. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. Yes, as Katrin said, I look after the communications and promotion activity in the project. And I'm just going to have a few minutes to try and sort of put a wrapper around the next session, really. So why Géant Connect? Why have we called it that? Well, we all work in different areas of the project. Oops, wrong one. That's it. Work in different areas of the project, and all those sort of different pieces make up the picture that is Géant and what it means and what it delivers to our research and education community of users. So over this session, you'll hear from just some of the activity leaders and project leaders in Géant and what their area looks after. So Mark's going to talk about... Oh, am I getting in the way? I'm getting in my own light, aren't I? Where's... Oh, it's all right. So Mark's going to talk about the sort of changes in the network and operation that have been going on. And we'll talk about the increasing importance of trust that surrounds the use of the network for the services. We'll have Andres is going to talk about the evolution, really, of the different services coming out with clouds in particular, and what that means for the changing dynamics, I believe, of supply and demand, and what that means for us in Géant. Aphrodite will talk about the vital role that research plays and the pursuing of research so that it can bring innovation into the services. And of course, John is going to talk about the users. You know, what's the focus of the user, I hope, anyway. Bring it to the users. And that's what we're all here for. That's why we're all involved in it. So, well, I did make your title up for you. So, but it's not just about these pieces of the project. There's underpinning, sort of through all the presentations, will be a look at, well, how do we, so there's the future there. It's not just what we're doing now, but it's how do we make sure that we're going to remain relevant and continue to develop and deliver the networking services and support that our users need, and in a way that makes sense. So it's now for future projects. So to do that, we have to have good governance to guide us through, and we'll hear about that a bit later. I think Niels will be talking about that. And we also need to look at the environment. We don't operate in a research and education networking bubble. We operate in a global community, not just research and education, but in the wider industry as well. So it's scanning the environment, understanding what's going on, the technological, the social, the legal and economic implications and what's happening, so that we can continue to look at these factors and respond to the challenges ahead. So it's important, so connection, Géant connected, so it's important for all these pieces are connected together, obviously to make up the picture of Géant. And then we also have to make sure that we're connected to environment so that we can continue to be relevant now and into the future for future projects. And I know Dorte will probably is going to talk a little bit about the future of Géant as well. So that's the aim, really. So it's not just the pieces that people talk about today, but every person looks after a little piece of the project, and it all goes into this nice picture to remain relevant now and into the future. So that's what we'll hear. But just before I hand over to Mark, I will make a plug. course, if you want to keep connected with what's going on in the project, pick up the latest issue of Connect and continue to, as we heard from Michael, the next issue will have much more detail about the open call, yet another piece that fits into this project picture. So, thank you. And Mark.
Thank you, Melanie. As you mentioned, standing up here, you do get an appreciation that you're part of something much bigger than your own individual element. Something big and significant, and perhaps a little scary. Afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Johnston. I'm the new head of Dante Operations, having taken over from Marian Garcia Vadondo in August. I joined Dante back in March 2012 to lead the GN migration project, which was the perfect opportunity to understand GN as an organisation and a community. And no better way, really, to understand the challenges that Dante operations face in the planning, building, and operating of the GN network. So previously to Dante, I spent 20 plus years in the telecommunications industry. In the early and mid-90s, I helped establish 2 European startups when Europe was going through the sort of deregulation of the telecommunications market. I spent 10 years working for British Telecom in their global division, running and managing their global voice data and transmission platforms. And as part of that, I spent sort of about 4 years planning and deploying a pan-European transmission and converged IP and MPLS network, which kind of sounds familiar. As part of that, I managed the migration of over 30,000 services while dealing with 3,500 new requests on a monthly basis. So I think I'm in a pretty strong position to understand the challenges of planning, building, and operating a pan-European network, and hopefully in a very strong position to take Dante and the GN network forward. So before I go into the body of my presentation, just a really reminder of what Dante Operations does on behalf of GN. And that is to plan, build, and operate advanced networks for research and education. GN is clearly the far the biggest network that we own and operate. And also as part of that, obviously, as Melanie mentioned, we're in a part of a global community. So part of our responsibility is plan, building, and operating connectivity from GN to the rest of the world. But what does that really mean? What that really means is we enable seamless collaboration amongst European researchers. That's what this network is all about, and that's really what our role is in this community. And then we enable European researchers to collaborate globally. So networks need to evolve. Networks need to keep pace with the ever-increasing demands and changing demands of users. But research doesn't stop to enable networks to be refreshed and technology to be replaced. That has to be done while maintaining services to users. Dante Operations, at the last year of the GN3 project, has done an excellent job of refreshing and replacing old and outdated technologies that used to run the GN network, while maintaining services to the research community. And as you can see, or hopefully can see, we've got statistics that prove that fact of the excellent job that Dante Operations did. Feedback from the satisfaction survey that Business Development ran shows that 98.6% of NRENs are very satisfied or satisfied with the performance of the GN network. As I mentioned, we refreshed and replaced the entire fibre footprint of the GN backbone. We replaced the legacy Alcatel optical transmission equipment. We replaced the old GN PLUS SCH service platform. And we converged the new GN3 PLUS service platform with the existing IP network. And we did all of that while maintaining a satisfaction rating of 96%. So I think that does show that Dante Operations did a very effective job. And we didn't do that alone. We couldn't have done that without the support of the NRENs. So, thank you very much for that support. A massive achievement. And I guess, what now we need to do is obviously, the service activities will figure out how to best use the capability that we've deployed. Because that's really now what the network is all about. It's all about how we use that network for the future. And just some sort of statistics on what we went through to deliver the new network. We laid 22 kilometers of power cable. We basically commissioned 50,000 kilometers of new fiber. We basically built 135 new sites. And basically, if Stuart came up with a good statistic, I think that if we laid all our racks of equipment together, it would take Usain Bolt over 13 seconds to run the length of them. So just some interesting facts. And just to kind of iterate the fact around maintaining service through all of this change, because that's really what we do. We deliver services to the research community. We managed well over 900 different service migration windows. And we still maintained a very high satisfaction rating. So, that's all well and good, but what does that mean for our users? So, effectively, as part of that, we delivered improved service offering. By merging the GN IP and GN PLUS service platforms, we provided and enabled the fact that NRENs can now aggregate all of their IP-based services over a shared aggregated interface. What this means is NRENs no longer need to allocate bandwidth on a sort of service-by-service basis. So subscriptions can be shared across all services. And effectively, what you end up with is the interface and the subscription is common across all services. And they can be shared however an NREN requires them to be shared based on their own particular demands. For those NRENs connected to the fiber network, with the new Infinera platform, we can now offer 100 gig lambdas. We can protect those lambdas, and we can reroute those lambdas within less than 50 milliseconds to avoid outages from planned maintenance. The line system is running at 500 gigs, always on, and that can be upgraded without any need to replace any of the transmission infrastructure to 2 terabits. So it's future-proofed. For those NRENs that are connected by managed connectivity or leaf circuits, we've gone through a benchmarking exercise and a service improvement exercise to replace expensive circuits and replace poor-performing circuits or poor-performing suppliers. And that was excellently led by a procurement team, which are somewhere in the audience. Paul and Phil, if you'd like to stand up, let everybody know who you are. Thank you. So the future, the network is future-proofed. Now, the Dante Operations organization needs to set itself up for the future. And to do that, we're going to focus on ensuring that we are ready to improve and provide a better service. So we're going to reorganize, make our organization simpler, and more easily able to provide better control and more consistent delivery in the provisioning and addition of new services. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an implementation team led by Stuart Ware. If you'd like to stand up, Stuart. We're going to create a network management team that will be led by Xavier Martins Rivers, who's on holidays and unfortunately can't be here. We're going to have an operations center that will just solely focus on basically fixing and maintaining your services. That position won't be held by Toby, because Toby's moving into a new role, which is we're setting up an organisation called Service Management and Innovation, which is all about putting a focus on managing our services more effectively, engaging with the NRENs to basically provide better communication, and also engaging with the service activity to help support the development of new services. So when those services come out of development into a production environment, we can support them effectively. And as part of that, it will also be promoting the use of the network. We have a very powerful network, and we need to promote the use of that. We have an operations centre, we have a service desk that we can use to support new services as they're developed. And that organisation is going to be led by Toby Rodwell. If you'd like to stand up, Toby. Okay. And we'll have our security team, as always, led by Wayne, if Wayne is in the audience. Set up. Okay. So the other thing is, yes, we're part of a research and education community. And one of the things we need to do is ensure that we are enabling research and enabling innovation. And that's quite difficult to do when you're there to provide carrier-grade services. And striking that balance, having the flexibility and taking risks to enable and facilitate research and innovation while maintaining carrier-grade services. And that's I think, quite a difficult proposition. But it's a balance we need to find, and I think we need to work together to figure out how we do that. Because I think the network can be used for much more innovation than perhaps it is and has been. I'm told to hurry up, so I'll be quick. So in conclusion, we're going to put a focus in the future on reorganising to provide a better service. We are going to significantly improve the services we offer. So Stuart is going to be set some stringent targets to improve service delivery. Now, we endeavour to be able to deliver 10 gig services within 2 days and 100 gig services within 5 days. That's the targets we're going to set ourselves. The network management team is going to be tasked to optimise the network, finding ways to make sure we're always delivering continued value to the community, and to put additional control and governance over network change. The service management innovation team is going to make sure we have much better engagement with our NRENs and with the research community. And we're going to endeavour to work together to be open for research and innovation. Thank you very much. Any questions? Nope. Okay, I'll hand over then.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anne Harding. I'm from Switch, and as you'll have heard from Matthew's introduction earlier, this time around I'm involved in the application services, or the edu-everythings. And I'd like to talk to you this afternoon about trust, and how trust is basically the hidden Géant network. It should be pervasive, it should be everywhere, and unlike what Mark just spoke about, it's often quite difficult to understand and to see the importance of it. So we know what a network looks like. There's an emerging concept of a network, which is basically your social network, your social identity, the applications you interact with online. That's also reasonably well understood. We are ourselves networks. Every single one of us sitting down carries a network of vessels for blood, for nerves. But what does a network of trust actually look like? On one level, it's fragments of SAML, it's radius packets, it's certificates. But to really understand what a network of trust looks like, we need to try and imagine a world without trust. Unfortunately, we don't actually have to try very hard to imagine this. The very week this plenary was being put together, information was released that the NSA had put backdoors into the open standards themselves. This is very much a betrayal of open standards and the trust that should underlie networks, should underlie applications. So where do we, as citizens of Europe in particular, and as people part of the Future Horizon 2020 community, where, as you heard earlier today, we're supposed to combine excellent science to make a better society, how do we take some steps towards that by building and maintaining our hidden network of trust in Géant? Well, let's consider the advantages of trust and what it helps us do. Initially, there's a perception that if you need single sign-on for something, if you need to protect it or whatever, it's closing it down, it's locking it down. Well, the truth is actually the opposite, because trust is what lets us be open. I have here a quote from Elixir. Elixir is a project based in the biolife sciences environment. They have a great deal of work to do, but one of the things that they do is they map the human genome. As part of their mapping, they're producing vast amounts of data. They've had technological advances. Round about here, you can see their technology step change, which has meant a great deal more data is available. And it is very, very important to their project that that data is open, because that is data about us as humanity, us as a species. This knowledge, they say, this wealth of knowledge should be freely available for all to access and study and process. But freely available also means that the data needs to have its integrity preserved. It needs to be reproducible. Secondary research needs to be done, is able to validate the results. And in order to do that, we have to be able to trust the data that's there. So trust lets us be open with science. It lets us do citizen science. Trust lets us do good research. I don't know if anybody recognizes this picture here. It's the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin. The Public History of the Holocaust Conference is a partner of DARIA. DARIA is a research group operating in the arts and humanities area. It's a very contested area of research where there's a great deal of bias attempting to hijack the information about the Holocaust. So if we do not validate our sources, if we do not provide methods or means for the researchers to know if the information is trustworthy, to know how it's sourced, to know how it's resourced, we are, in effect, unable to do good research because we have to trust our sources, in particular in areas like history, where it's so easy to rewrite the facts. Without trust, this is possible. With trust, we can make the most of the information available to us. In particular with the Holocaust history, information is increasingly crowdsourced, individual people providing data, providing information about their own experiences. Trust allows us to collect this and to record it and to know where it came from. Finally, trust actually lets us innovate. This picture here is the Swiss light source, a synchrotron facility in Switzerland. There are equivalent facilities in the UK, in France, and in Germany. These facilities support a wide range of cross-discipline research. So anything from material science, chemistry, pure physics can use these facilities. And they're very, very flexible in their working. They have estimated that about 60% of the users of these facilities use more than one of these facilities and are not located at them. So they're extremely flexible. It's not sustainable for people to keep traveling there one day, come back, do their research, travel there another day, and come back. So they're increasingly looking at doing this remote experimentation. But to do that, you need to know that your data that you've put in is correct, that it's accurate, that you can control it, who's controlling it. So that means that you need trust. Here's just a nice example of one of the pieces of research that's gone on. This is a prehistoric axe head, and this is a collaboration between some archaeologists and some material sciences to use the light sources in order to basically analyze what's happening inside that axe. It's a multi-party, multi-country experiment. So either you have all of these people traveling to these sources, or they're distributed and they can use the network of trust to run their experiments safely and securely. So trust lets us innovate. These three sets of experiments, Elixir, DARIA, and Pandata, are all working with us actively in GN3 PLUS to develop our trust network, our hidden trust network, to meet their needs. But we need to think back to the beginning. Think back to that vision of an internet where basically the only thing it's safe to do is post pictures of your cats, or sell your product or productize your identity, or share with the NSA where you're going on holidays. We are perfectly positioned, and you'll have heard from Dale's speech earlier, we are perfectly positioned to go beyond that as a community, to provide e-infrastructures to the wider scientific community, and perhaps by extension the world, to make more of our identity and more of trust. So that's a big picture. Let's get a little more concrete. What are we able to do in the next 2 years within Géant? Well, we have our flagship trust and identity services, EduRoam and EduGain. We're shooting for the moon, going beyond basic single sign-on, converging these infrastructures, supporting non-web applications. You've also heard in the open calls how we're pushing the boundaries of what the people need in the area of identity and trust. This is our future. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here, to be here together, right, as a Géant community. I love to tell you about services and how we are measuring their success. Who are bringing these services and who is driving this? It's end users, right? 1/3 of the population is online, young and old, bring their own devices and their own services. Users are the choosers. And if we're talking about measuring success, it seems like one happy customer to me, right? If you're unhappy, and if you live in Germany, you can now get a compensation from your network provider. There's a court ruling that says internet is essential. And if your provider doesn't deliver, so DFN, listen up, they can sue you now. Well, we know that more and more people nowadays are going online via mobile devices. Almost 1/5, 20% of the users are going online via their mobile devices, and each day, 1.5 million Android devices get activated each day. And that's a staggering number, right? In the Netherlands, there's a large telco that's even saying, bye-bye Wi-Fi. If you buy our 4G mobile product, you don't need Wi-Fi anymore. Now, I think that's a rather bold statement, but it shows the speed of developments, right? Another good example is music. I think all of us are old enough to have been in a record store, I think. That's the old way of doing it. All these small shops, all these local businesses are now wiped out and being replaced by just a couple of large global players. Who of you uses Spotify? Who's a Spotify user? Oh, quite a few here. So what you see with these services, they are really impacting the supply chain. Delivering services on a CD-ROM is really difficult. It's elaborate. You need quite an elaborate supply chain, right? Print your CD-ROMs, get them shipped, resell them. Now with clouds, it's easy. Just stick them on a server and they're there. So clouds are really good for fast delivery. But as Anne said, there's a trust and control issue involved. And these are the challenges that we face in GN3 PLUS. Because if you look at our supply chain, that is quite elaborate, right? You got the vendors, Géant, NRENs, institutes, users. And these vendors and users like to make direct connections. It's easy for them. So users are choosers, and they seem to be the ones that are measuring their success. And for them, I think the most successful services are services that establish new habits, like the iPhone and the iPad, where you touch things. And a thing like Facebook with your social connections. Seems like the holy grail to us. Will we ever be able to deliver something like this? Well, I think we are already doing this with EduRoam. That is such a strong brand. Everybody who was here and tried to sign up to the regular hotel Wi-Fi network, I think will truly appreciate what we are doing with EduGain, right? The ease of use. That's a very strong brand. It's in the face of the users. They use it daily and they love it. So we should be working onwards from this and put more global brands in place. And this is a nice one. This is a real world example. These are real cloud providers. I changed the names. I named them, let's call them Coke and Pepsi, vendor X and vendor Y. And both deliver the same product. And vendor X is a traditional vendor. They come from the CD-ROM world. And look how difficult they make it. 11 different price plans, 2 editions, 2 tiers. I don't even know what that means. It's really difficult. I look at the other one. That's a pure cloud player. 1 edition, 1 price. I think I know which version users prefer. So users have real choice. But the question is, are they really choosers? Because if you're on your own, then you are alone in the dark, right? If you're on your own, you will never be able to get the right deals on pricing, on features, on controlling and auditing that you know your data is secure. You will never be able to do this on your own. It's a fragmented experience. We are the ones that are capable of delivering a seamless experience. We share the same special requirements, and we bring the size. If you look at this graph, it shows large IT vendors and large IT brands. And with 50 million users, we are up on this graph, right? Right up there with iMode and, okay, also Windows Phone. Well, they can't all be winners, can they? But we're up there, 50 million, so we can make an impact. It's not only about large services, it's also about the long tail. You know the book by Chris Anderson? The cost of production and distribution falls dramatically, especially delivering online. So there is a place for niche services, for many, many different services. And these are relevant to us, and we should try to bring them into our community. We should try and achieve 3 things. Choice for our users, make it easy to use for them, and make it safe. How? We are a bit like a shopping mall, I think. A shop-in-a-shop experience. We are the ones managing this shopping experience. We are the ones deciding which vendors can become part of this. So we manage and we measure for 50 million users. So the question is, which services do we bring in from external providers and allow our community to consume them? Which services do we need to produce ourselves, and how do we integrate this with our network, with our middleware, to bring this seamless experience? Only in the shopping mall, if we bring in the services, will we be able to get these safe and good conditions of use, with a baseline of essential requirements that all vendors should comply with, and with clear conditions on the service parameters. Not 11 tiers, 2 editions, 2 prices, no small print, clear labels to help our users make informed decisions. And I think if we do that, if we bring the right services to the right people at the right time, everybody will be happy, and certainly this guy. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My talk is about innovation in the GN3 project, GN3 PLUS project. Having been involved many years in GRA activities in GN, I will take you through the research activities and the aspirations of the GN3 PLUS project with a focus on innovation. In the pursuit of innovation, we have planned a number of both breakthrough clean slate approaches to several aspects of our day-to-day work, but also evolutionary steps in our day-to-day plan. And we'll take you through these areas today very briefly in this lightning talk, and we will also let you know where do we get fresh air from coming to our research work, although I think you already have a hint on that. So it is already 6 months now that the GN3 Plus teams have taken off to pursue innovation. Innovation in our case, and the goal for us is to be able to change the way we deliver services, to improve the way we deliver services, but also go to places where no one else has gone before. And we are not going to Anne's Moon, we're going to new places altogether. So this is a journey which is just now starting, and I will take you through the areas we're going to visit and take a closer look. Our community is famous for deploying very complex and advanced infrastructures. GN3 was, and the latest version of it was awarded many times last year. We're delivering the high-end technologies, we're deploying high-end infrastructures, we're delivering ultra-high speeds. We are mixing technologies and we're architecting them and orchestrating them in a way which delivers added value services to our user community in a very distinguishable way. But let's leave all that aside for a moment and let's take down the model we are currently building on the GN3 backbone and start rethinking fundamental assumptions and design decisions. We believe in the research area of GN3 Plus that, driven by the current requirements coming to our way from big data applications, from the clouds, from high-speed mobile networking, and revisiting the fundamental architecture and orchestration of our infrastructures, we have a very promising road ahead of us to achieve innovation. Leaving the infrastructure layer and moving a little bit higher, the research and education operations teams, both in the individual countries and in GN, have been very successful in managing their networks, in operating their networks, in delivering services, in provisioning resources for the user community. And in doing that, they have been using either off-the-shelf solutions or within the GN project for several years now, we have been developing our own systems, our tools, our management tools, interfaces, prototype standards. We're even leading in global initiatives in some of these areas. Management, operations, resource provisioning, services around them. This is what has been taking place so far, and this is the past, this is the present. But we cannot ignore the future, and the future is changing the way networks are being managed and are being delivered and provisioned today. And this is just one of the many diagrams that one can come up with by Googling the internet about NFV or OpenFlow or SDN. But the trend is that the network elements today are being stripped off their complex capabilities. They become bare metal with very, very basic functionality, and a lot of this functionality moves up to a software layer, the network operating system, which is now exposed to applications at the control plane layer through open APIs. A lot of the management functions, configurations, visibility, monitoring are now at the fingertips of the users. And in the research teams of GN3 Plus, we're following this trend. We're researching upon this trend. We're trying to look into upcoming initiatives like the network function of virtualization of ETSI, Open Network as a Service, and so on. And again, here, we see a lot of potential for innovation in the years to come. Moving on, leaving infrastructure, services, provisioning aside, trust. Trust and identity, already raised by Anne, how important this is in delivering value to our user community. In the research area of GN+, we're bridging identity and trust technologies and solutions of our environment with that of the commercial world. We're opening up the gates in a safe and trusted way, and we're also helping identity federations to gain access to our services and infrastructures in a more efficient way. And the innovation here will not only come out of the technologies, but will also come out of the business models and the business opportunities that will come out of these efforts. And again, a very promising area for the years to come and the GN3 Plus JRAs. Are we alone in that? No, we're not. As Michael presented very thoroughly earlier today, we cannot only rely on the competencies of this group of NREN members and very competent engineers and software developers. So in the GN3 Plus project, the JRAs are privileged to be able to receive new, fresh ideas from outside of the consortium, from communities and partners which are now about to become members of the consortium, and breathe into the GN research agenda new concepts. Haven't seen a big amount of the projects that are being now about to start or be funded. There is a very significant, let's say, breeze of new ideas, new use cases for the advanced capabilities of our infrastructures and services, new technical capabilities, new service models coming out of these open call projects. And we're very eager in the research teams of GN3 Plus to take this in and build upon them and integrate them in the research that we do with the ultimate goal of innovation. So, with our mind always on the services we have to deliver to our user community, we're taking gradual steps, reshaping the infrastructure, considering how to rethink about architecting our infrastructures, delivering capabilities at the fingertips of end users, and extending identity and trust capabilities beyond the RNA community, inspired by the open call teams to lead the project to new horizons. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm John Cheevers from Dante. I have to say, I was a little bit surprised and of course pleased when I was invited to speak at this plenary. But I was asked to talk about community. And community and society are two words that politicians quite often use, or certain politicians really like those words, and other politicians seem to dislike them. Certainly Margaret Thatcher said there's no such thing as society. If there's no such thing as community, we're going to have quite a short presentation here, so let's hope there is. But if you look at Google Images, you'll find lots of happy pictures like the one you see here showing community, but it's quite difficult to find out what that means. So I decided I'd have a look at successful communities and perhaps see what we could learn in Géant. Perhaps one of the most successful not-for-profit organizations is the Beehive. These might look like simple wooden boxes, but they are absolutely key to the whole global ecosystem. These are very, very well-established and sustainable communities. They've been there for thousands of years, and none of us could survive without them. So this is a model I think would be a very good one for Géant. This community has a very well-established product portfolio. These are some products from Australian bees, and you'll see that they actually have a very good marketing department, because although these are Australian products, you'll see the labels are printed not only in French but in Arabic. So these bees are able to adapt to different markets. But aside from these products which you can buy in the shops from bees, the most important service they provide is the pollination of plants. So let's look at how they do that. There are different kinds of beehive, and I've got to admit I'm not an expert, but there are at least 3 different kinds of beehives here, one of which is square, one of which is hexagonal, and one of which is round. And I've got no idea why they're those different shapes. I also, for those of you who are perhaps too young to remember, these ladies on the right-hand side are sporting a hairstyle known as the beehive from the 1960s. I don't know what the connection of that is either. But what I do know is that there's diversity in beehives. It doesn't matter what shape the beehive is. They're still producing these essential products and services. And that's something we can learn from too. There are also different kinds of bees. And I hope we won't see too much of an analogy here with the NMEN and Géant community. Because on the bottom right, you see the honeybee. And we all know the honeybee. That's a really, really useful member of society. But the other 3 are not very helpful. 2 of them are actively dangerous. The hornets have, I don't know, there's recently been 39 deaths in China from hornet stings. So we certainly hope we haven't got any of those in our community. And the bumblebee is aerodynamically, marginal. So we want to concentrate on being honeybees and not any of these other kinds of bees. But we should watch out that there are threats out there, There are threats. We could become like the bumblebee, which isn't, lives in small communities and it doesn't market its honey more widely, dying out in many cases. The hornets and yellow jackets are out there, and they're potential threats. So let's look at the honeybee. We want to be like them. And there are different kinds of honeybee, and I think this is what I'm really interested in. I have a session on Thursday this week, which I'll advertise now, about the géant supply chain. And that isn't about going and buying things. That's about the roles and responsibilities we have in the project. And in the beehive, they have workers, they have queens, they have drones. And those are not hierarchical responsibilities, but they are practical roles which each of those different bees takes. And that means that the production of the honey is effective. But it isn't all good in the beehives, you know. Bee populations are falling, and we're seeing lots of dead bees around the world. And that's because of environmental changes. And this is really concern to people because, you know, bees are essential, and you know, we need to make sure the environment doesn't change in a way that kills off the bees. But this is the same for us. We need to really look at our environment and see, is that changing? Are we going to end up like the bee, unable to adapt to a changed environment, no matter how essential we think we are? So, how does this all relate to géant? We are like bees, I think. We are a community. We work together. We each have our own roles and responsibilities. And I hope you'll all agree that we do have this unique and vital role in the science community. If the bees can pollinate plants, we can facilitate scientific projects. And I hope that we will maintain that unique and vital role. But it is a privilege. You know, we're all publicly funded, and that public funding is there because we're essential. If we're not essential anymore, we won't get the funding. We have established structures in place, much like the beehive. There are ways they make the honey, and we have structures within the project. We have structures in the way we work between networks. So there are those similarities there. We also have these useful and attractive products. We might not make honey, but we have other essential services which people rely on. And our community, I think, works well together. You know, we can provide services to the whole of the research and education community, and I really struggle to think of a set of organizations that has that same reach to the academic community across Europe. If you were looking to sell something to universities, to research institutes, I think you would really struggle to find a set of organizations that has that same level of penetration in the academic marketplace. But there are still things we can learn and improve in géant, and perhaps those can also be learnt from the bees. I'll go to the second point first. We do need to establish these clear roles and responsibilities. There are definitely different tasks and different people in different tasks in géant, but what I think is sometimes missing is the communication between those, and where we need to make sure that we have that there shouldn't be gaps in that set of responsibilities, and also there shouldn't be overlaps. We need to do that to establish a professional service. It's no good as addressing part of a community and not another part. It's no good as establishing a service without having that compatible with an authorization infrastructure. We need to make sure that our roles and responsibilities are well defined and that we actually speak to one another. Secondly, as I mentioned, the environment is changing. You've heard a lot about that this afternoon already. We are under threat from commercial services. There are commercial operators out there who provide services which are comparable with géants. Those are a threat. They could be the hornets. Clouds is clearly a very, very important area for the academic community. You've heard more about that from Andros earlier. And there are new scientific areas that are adopting networks, that are adopting cloud services, and we need to make sure that we are close to those new projects as they emerge, and that they see us as the de facto solution for these ICT solutions. There are new technologies. Anne has already mentioned many of these. I won't go into those again, but trust and so on is clearly very, very important. And finally, the financial pressures which we all see, they're very, very much the wolf at the door, if I can mix my metaphors to another animal species. So finally, I'd just like to say, yes, we should look after the bees, but we should also be clear that we need to look after ourselves. Nobody will be looking after our environment and making sure it changes to fit, to ensure that an NWREN can survive or Géant can survive. We need to adapt, and that's something a bee finds quite difficult, although they've got thousands of years of sustainable operation in their environment. So we really need to look after ourselves as well. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to all our speakers, Mark, Anne, Aphrodite, Andres, and John. That was all very, very interesting. Thank you, Melanie, for the introduction. I think all of those 5 speakers know why they get invited, and John, I think you have established again why next year you will be speaking yet again. So I think that was very good. I would now like to take a look into the future. And invite Dorte Olesen to speak to us, and this time wearing her hat as the chair of the GN4 working group, and tell us a little bit about what we're going to be expecting to happen over the next 6 to 12 months. Thank you, Dorte.
Thank you, Catherine, for the introduction, and thank you very much for inviting me to talk about the road towards GN4. Now, as you will see, I'm not going to talk very much about content, but I'm going to talk about the process. But a little bit of content may slide in its own way. Now, as you all know, GN3 PLUS is a short project. It's only 2 years. So preparing the continuation was really urgent from the very start. And we can say formally that the preparations for the successor activity, with the working title GN4, started at the end of June, when we had the assembly and NWREN PC meetings in Prague, and formed the GN4 working group, which is intended, and it was decided in Prague, should in fact continue its work until GN4 starts. Now you may be a little bit surprised, why do I say this so explicitly? Well, the GN3 PLUS project is governed by the GN3 PLUS Partners Assembly, which has only the running of the GN3 PLUS project as its remit. In earlier times, we had the NWREN Policy Committee, which not only ran the project, but also had a more overall role, a policy role. Now, it was decided already a couple of years ago to split the policy role from the running of the project. And this has actually been effectuated in the way the GN3 PLUS Assembly Consortium has been formed. So we still have the NWREN Policy Committee, but again, as many of you will know, there are now ongoing deliberations about future reorganization. And Dante and Terina are deeply in conversation about all this. But what was decided in Prague is that no matter what happens, we want this working group to go on till the GN4 project starts, because otherwise a very short planning period may suddenly be disrupted, and we really cannot see how this is going to work. So the GN4 working group is there until GN4 starts. And the members are myself, Eric Heuser, Ivan Maric, Marco Bonac, Josh Howlett, Lars Fischer, Thomas Brunner, Sabine Jaume, Christian Grimm, Matthew Scott, and Nils Herzog. Now, the overall strategy and vision for Géant in 2020 has actually been clear already for a couple of years. Dale told you about this that the GN 2020 vision from the GN expert group went into Horizon 2020. Matthew mentioned the GN 2020 vision of creating GN as a European Communication Commons. And the goals, the more specific goals, how to reach this communication commons are here. There were 4 of them. That GN in 2020 should support the knowledge communities by providing world-class connectivity and services, should support also the growth of these communities in both breadth and depth within Europe, and opening up to talent all over the world, also beyond the borders of Europe. And this sentence is, in breadth, for example, means opening up also to research from the private sector, very important for the collaboration that will produce products and more jobs and so on. Opening up also to people totally outside the established research world, to talents sitting around, citizen scientists, people like that. So it's a pretty broad concept here. And then push the state of the art of the communication commons by constant innovation and by translating this innovation into a competitive European ICT sector. Now, finally, there was the goal about reorganizing to cope with the constantly changing environment, and that is exactly the goal which is being pursued by these ongoing discussions between Dante and Terena, now anchored in the group of 4, about how to organize ourselves in the future. Knowledge communities, expanding them, making them work more efficiently as the key to the future. Well, what do you see for your NOI when you think of a knowledge community? Is this the picture you see? This is a classic picture, of course. This is a group of people getting together, as you can see here in the very classic frame. This is the way an artist has envisioned that this was probably the way it looked in the old days, when all the talent from Europe gathered somewhere in southern Europe in beautiful surroundings, had discussions, really pushed knowledge for their time ahead. Now today, we all know, we have already seen this picture before today, collaboration can be done remotely. This map is the map by Olivier Beauchesne, where you can see the lines. They signify not a network connection, but a collaboration that people in 2 different cities have actually published a paper together. That's what it signifies. And you can see that people are really publishing together across Europe. But this may be obvious to our community. It's not totally obvious to everybody. We think, we all know that the network has changed totally the way we can reach knowledge, we can reach instruments. A lot of researchers in universities and research centers know it too. They know that they reach their literature today through the digital libraries. They know they can reach their colleagues online via mail. Some of them also know that they can reach instruments and use them remotely. But not everybody has the possibility, because there's not yet in place for all the very interesting and fantastic physical research infrastructures rules for how you can access them if you are not employed at the place where they stand. There are still a lot of things to do there, and I urge all of you who know so well that we have these fantastic possibilities using our fantastic network, and not to forget our trust schemes, our identity federations and interfederations. You should really be out there and be ambassadors and tell people who have research infrastructures in your different countries. Well, there are all these fantastic possibilities, because some of them are really not aware of it yet. I've just been in an expert group in DD Research dealing with the implementation of the European research area. And I was so surprised, because to many of these outstanding scientists sitting there as the other experts, it was still a physical research infrastructure they were thinking of. And they said, well, it's very exceptional that you need to have remote access. Would you have believed that? I didn't believe it, but it was true. So remember, to give talks like the ones we have heard here about all the fantastic possibilities whenever you have a chance, and also, of course, when you just converse with scientists on a 2-by-2 basis. Tell them about it. Because one of the recommendations that will be coming out of this expert group is that there should be, in the future, also a European charter for access to research infrastructures. This is definitely not yet in place. Obviously, there are research infrastructures that can be accessed and are accessed remotely today. The European Southern Observatory in Chile and CERN and so on. But there are also lots of physical research infrastructures which are still confining access to the people who actually physically work there. And this is not the future. We really have to work with that. And our community can also really do something to propagate the knowledge and the understanding that you can do a lot more. Now, to operationalize the implementation of the GN 2020 vision, we have formed the Strategy and Innovation Committee, the SIC, and actually just a few days ago, they produced their very first draft vision paper, where we are seeing more details come out on how can we progress in the further process to go towards the GN 2020 goals. Because already GN3 PLUS has taken some steps, as Matthew also mentioned, but GN4 will be the place where we really need to take the big steps, because GN4 will last almost till 2020. So we need the details on the road. We don't have them yet, so I cannot tell you much or anything at all right now about the contents. But I think the previous speakers have really hinted at a lot of possible ways to go. We look forward very much to finishing the work with the Strategy Committee as the first building block on the road for the GN4 working group. We are also hoping very much that our external advisory committee, most of whom are here today, and the International Users Advisory Committee, some of whom are here today, will deliver some input for us. And we have, Dante has generously managed to provide us with a good graphic representation of our work plan. You should not go into all the details here, because this is a very dynamic document. And in fact, the first version was created when we still thought that there was going to be a real call for proposals for GN4, the way we have known it for GN3 Plus and GN3 and GN2 and GN and the projects before that. Right now, it seems we will get what's called a framework partnership agreement, which is really a very interesting concept for us. It's an instrument that has actually existed for the Commission for quite some time, but never been used in the research and technology end of the Commission. Now they're very interested in doing it. They're very interested in doing it with us, which we think is very, very interesting, also with a few others. But we are one of the very first in this end of the Commission, and it looks very promising. What you can see here is that the SIC has already been working. They have actually, as I said, delivered the very first draft. This draft will be discussed at the NVPC meeting in Geneva at the end of October. Later, there will, of course, be some feedback and some changes, probably, to the draft due to the discussion there. And then we will have it further worked on so that the final version will actually be in the March meeting next year of the Assembly. But before we reach that, of course, we have been working already with the Framework Partnership Agreement. We've also been taking what we call the incremental approach, and we will be taking that to how are we going to transition from GN3 Plus to GN4. So we are looking at which activities do we really believe will continue, of course with new elements, that goes without saying, and where do we think there will be completely new activities, so that as early as possible, we are able to also appoint activity leaders for the continuing activities and have these activity leaders in the whole work process towards the detailed planning of the DN4. As I said, you shouldn't really look too closely, especially at the lower part of this diagram, because it's dynamic. Some of it has not yet been changed from the time when we thought it was going to be a call for proposals like we used to. But what is very clear is that everything has to be finished before we finish the GN3 PLUS project, because otherwise we'll be in a vacuum. And that is exactly what this deliberate planning process and the early start of the work aims not to happen. I mean, we aim for, of course, a smooth transition where the day GN Plus is finished, GN4 is right there taking over. And I think it will make some things easier and give us some more time to have the framework partnership agreement instead of the call for proposals, because this will probably mean that we can do a number of things more gradually. We don't have to have one big package all finished, all ready to start on day one. We can have a number of things starting up first, and then we can have other things starting up later. So I think it'll be really good for us to have this new frame, the framework partnership agreement. And I'm looking forward to the work we are going to do in the DN4 working group. Also, of course, it's going to be quite exciting when we get to the point where we can look at new activities. But we should never forget that there are a lot of good things going on already that need continuation. And of course, those should transition very smoothly into the next project. So I think that's about what I can say at this stage, at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dorte. And I think you can now also reveal that you're one of those very interesting people, because Dorte was a little bit in hiding before. Okay, so last not least, I would like to introduce Niels Herzog, who is the Joint Project Manager in GN3 Plus with Matthew, and also General Manager of Dante. And Niels is going to look forward now in GN3 Plus. So next 6 months, I guess.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you indeed. Also, thank you, Dorte, for a nice, good presentation. I will look a little bit ahead. So the presentation is like that. Some of you might have seen this before, but the message is by and large still the same. That's why I allow myself to repeat myself. A view on outside and inside, meaning outside of the project, outside of the window there, and inside in the project. Very single slide on project and product management. And then a little bit elaborate on the new governance, the way that we operate together, and then swiftly through some selected things that actually already are covered now. I just want to repeat this. And then I have a riddle for all of you. What is this? But you will have time to think about that, so you don't fall asleep through my presentation here. So let's go ahead, outside and inside. So we heard Dale Robertson talk about all the billions in Brussels. We have a new project. We have lots of money. Matthew said a little bit less than the last time, but nevertheless, we have money in the pot. Plain sailing, no problems. But that is kind of the inside view. In reality, it could look pretty much like this, where it actually is pretty dangerous waters that we are sailing in. We should, of course, be carefully sailing over here, but if we don't navigate very well, we could end up as one of John's bees in the pot there. So we are in a nice position, but we need constantly to defend why we are in such a nice position, and don't fall asleep thinking that this will go on forever. We already see it now. Those people working hard and intensively in the shared cost sharing working group knows there's a constant pressure on us to deliver at the same price, even at lower price. So in short, you can say there's a strong pressure for all of us of delivering more for less. And all of you, any single body here should be aware of that. Anything you do should be focused on really being very, very cost efficient. Delivering, I'm not talking about here about cost cutting, but delivering advanced service, giving a higher productivity to all the scientists. So if you look outside the window, again, have the outside view, the global GDP growth over quarter by quarter, advanced economies, that is us. We're pretty close to the nil line here, and we all know we have been in a massive crisis. It is still there. We are getting better, but the world as such is doing definitely better, and the emerging markets and the economies are doing much better than Europe. So this is part of our environments. The advanced economies are still way behind in growth. So look at the situation today in the euro area. This is here. We have 17% of the total share of the money in the world. That is today nice and comfortable. 17% of the whole economy. So let's look ahead. What happens in 2030? That's not so long ago. That will shrink to 12%. Okay, we're down 5. And actually from 17 down 5. That's a massive change. And what will go further in 2060? We're down to 9%. You can change that. If you go out there and find and do advanced research in helping the researchers, you can help us, you can help Europe be in a better position going forward. Right now we are on a declining curve. And final slide on this matters, it's kind of ranking the countries and around the world. You see here 2010 and here 2020. So in 2020, that's only 7 years ahead, China will have overtaken US as the largest economy in the world. India will have overtaken Japan. Russia would have overtaken Germany. And Brazil will have overtaken UK and France. This is only 7 years ahead. So we are living in a world of massive changes. This over here is another world. We also have some other steep declines, Italy dropping significantly, also Spain. Of course, this is only a prognosis, but you are in the nice situation. You can actually change that by going out and do your magic. So in a way, we can say we are a little shared here, and the big dogs are really watching us because it's a nice piece of chicken down there. So what do we actually do? Well, we need to keep and improve the global research and education leadership. SHARED is a true global leader. And we need to go out there and defend that position, make it better, and that is for sure our road to recovery. That is our tool to help Europe going forward. And we need to improve our leading position. We've been around for a long time. We have been carrying quite huge loads and at really breathtaking speeds. At some time it was 34 megabits per second, and actually that's not a long time ago. It's not many years ago since this was really something. Well, today we've shifted gear. We are now have another outfit. We are ready with new and much faster equipment to take the slope here at staggering speeds, the right colors on the car, And actually also, as you saw here, Dorte Olsen was speaking here as head of the GN4 working group, but also the chair of the assembly, the highest authority of all we are doing. And look at that, we got a new chair, we got a new driver. So we are ready to take the race. We're ready to jump the wagon. We are ready to jump on this GN 2020 ultra-fast packet transport. We are on tracks, but we got to deliver, and that's you. So we've seen this, 10 times today. Still very nice to look at, and we connect 65 countries outside Europe. In Europe, we have around 40 countries, more than 100 countries. A nice figure, but in reality, it's more than 50% of the countries in the world. That is global leadership. That is true global leadership. We are in a very fine position now. It's not time to lean back because competition, as I said before, is steep. But we are in a very fine starting position. I want us to defend that position. I want that to be improved. So, and you can still figure out any clues on what that might be. Any ideas? Don't tell it, but just think about it. So what about project and product management? I've been standing here many times and advocating that, and I won't say much this time. I'll just say that this project management framework, it is there, and it is in all what we do. In all we do, we will do it in a very organized way, using this simple framework we have. And please still rest assured that we will do that in a lean and mean way and in a very pragmatic way, but we will do it. There are no shortcuts, there are no way around it. We will do it in this way. And Matthew and me, we really see an improved ability to take decisions simply because we got much better information, much better information at our tables. Same with product lifecycle management. I won't touch it much. It's been, it is in all what we do. Every service you deliver, every service we potentially discontinue, we will use this framework all over the place. It's pretty new, but it's very nice for me to see that this has been very well received in this community, but definitely also in specific entrants that now are approaching us to see, hey, how do you do that? Please tell us more about it. So this is very well received. We will do this going forward as well. And then maybe a few words on the governance, because we have a new governance structure. It looks like that, pretty complex, you might say. But let's take it one by one. So first of all, why at all are we doing anything? Well, we're doing something because the Partners Assembly, and Dorte Olsen, the previous speaker, is the chair of that assembly. We're doing that because they want us to do things. And just the nomenclature, the colors means that the green ones are the external people, blue one are NREN and partners, and the gray one are the activities. So the Partners Assembly has set us on a mission. And a new thing here is the International User Advisory Committee. It's a new committee. It's just formed. We just have the names. And why do we have that? They are the reason for why we're here. We should never, ever forget that the reason why we're here is to serve the users, and we will ask the User Advisory Committee how to serve the users better. So far, we have these prominent people on the list. I won't take the names, but I will take the organizations here from CERN, Clarion, Elixir, EMBL, ESA, UDAT, UMETSAT, Human Brain Project, ITER, JIVE, and PRACE. Very prominent, very advanced infrastructures and science projects. I'm really looking forward to listen to the good advices that they will come to us with. We also have another committee that's been mentioned previously before. We know it from GN3, the External Advisory Committee, again with a direct reference to the Partners Assembly. And these people are all here today. We have a meeting with them here, and they are our critical friends. And a critical friend, that is a friend that can say, hey, come on, do this better because this is too bad. So, but do it in a friendly way, and we will adapt to that. And on that committee, we have the following persons: Professor Plattner from Zurich, please rise up so we can see it. Thank you. Pia Öster from Center of Science in Finland. Is Pia here? Yep, down way down there. Steve Carter all the way from New Zealand. Very welcome. Richard Scalisi. I don't think he's here because he's actually on an appointment on SKA up there in Manchester. And I'm very pleased to welcome Didier Arnaud-Bourse, CTO of Alcatel-Lucent. I'm personally very happy that we now have also the industry participating in this and giving the project as such advice from outside. This is indeed very, very welcome. I'm really looking forward to this to working with this group again. So if you again dive into this organization here, the activity leaders, many of you are sitting here, are driving the projects, and they are organized in some groups here. And of course, we have a project management, the GN project office, and we have Matthew and me. And by and large, this is the only organization that is in play when you do things that are defined in the technical annex. If what you do is defined completely in the technical annex, there's no reason to involve anyone else. Please, all activity leaders, remind yourself about this. This is the business as usual organization. So, and also as the business as usual organization, we have a suite of coordinators who are supposed to go across all the activities. You have Catherine, you have Toby, Anand, Michael and Guy, Richard Hughes-Jones, Wayne, Mark Johnston, the new kid on the block there, Cesare, and they are supposed to have a holistic view across the activities and assist the GN project officer and Matthew and me to take the right decisions when still we are within the technical annex. So. But we also have these advisory boards. They are sitting here as supposed to advise the activity leaders. But in principle, and only that is when we are dealing with exceptions to the technical annex. So whenever you're outside what was stipulated in technical annex, in principle, we should seek advice by the network advisory boards. And they are anchored all the way to the top, to the executive board up there. So all in all, this is the governance structure as we have today. Please use it as drawn. Please don't make shortcuts. It's much better if we work as this picture shows. So a few selected objectives. Still, what is that? Anyone? Any clue? No. What did you say? I can't hear you. Not anymore. So what about the selected objectives? I'll just briefly touch that. We of course have the open call. I'm very happy to talk about that. Michael went in depth into that, but it is a new thing with and quite a number of projects across this on a very, very important areas. And now soon I'm going to have a dance with Catherine. And we also have these services roadmaps. I not at all will go into this, but we have a quite substantial number of services, either in strategy phase, design, pilot, and production, stipulated to be there at the end of the project. So there are lots of things for us to do. A very nice picture. And that's about it. That's actually about it, except, of course, disclosing what these people down there already have seen, that this is the Technisches Museum here in this very beautiful city, and that's where we will spend the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niels. We're here for questions.
Again?
Questions. Thank you very much, Niels. Do you have any questions to Niels? Please.
No, all is understood.
All is understood, yes. Well, I don't know if it's a question to you, but it occurred to me earlier with Michael as well. I mean, how do we make sure? Is it through the coordinators? Where's Michael? Oh, there's Michael. Is it through the coordinators, or how do we make sure that the open call work is actually being inputted into JRA work and into the entire sort of discussion in GN3?
The coordinators working in conjunction in that slide I showed earlier on is the first stage, and then if there's any problems there, of course, we can resort to the advisory boards, but that's in principle the first place in which that integration occurs and makes sure
And in which advisory board would they be?
Good question. Whichever one is most necessary, I think.
Okay, all right.
The advisory boards I talk about is for the entire projects, and what Michael is talked about is about the open calls.
Mm-hmm. Any more questions? Yes, please, Cesare. We get a mic, please.
Thank you, Niels. Very good presentation. And I think it's more a comment or not a question. European Commission has a very strong stream of funding for regional development, for structure funding, and it's especially for Central and Eastern European countries, but it's of course also in Spain and other countries. And I think one important point for us, for GN3, for NRENS, is also to listen and observe how development is going in these regions and find the really leading the regions to bring them and to listen to them. What are they looking in terms of innovation in the economy, innovation in the culture, in education, and bring those cases also to GN3 more closer to show that this is more also on a society development and not only on the research part, which we are looking for to 2030, for instance. So that's I think also important to be maybe not as the beekeeper, but as the community together. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. The regional funds are a very important tool. Actually, it's very good money because it's outside what we have. So if you are able to attract regional funds, then you got more than we have now. So please go ahead. Dale and Dorte is to some degree able to do some. You can ask questions to these two in order to understand how to apply, but there are very good examples across Europe, in the Czech Republic, in Spain, maybe also in Poland, indeed. So there's a lot of experience around this table here today how to attract these funds.
Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, Niels. Well, quite a marathon this afternoon. I think we got quite a lot of different lights onto the GN project. We started with a very big view of the vision of the European Union and how we fit it into the bigger picture that the European Union is actually building, and how GN fits into that today and in the future. We then looked with Matthew at the GN3 PLUS project overall as we stand today, our daily bread and butter and the statistics surrounding it. And then Michael showed us a completely new aspect of GN3 PLUS, which are the open calls and the new blood into the project and the new way of keeping GN an innovative platform. After the coffee break, we went on to our tour de force. Very quick presentations, one after the other, highlighting the themes, again, of this symposium: innovation, users, services, and clouds. And thanks again to Mark, Anne, Andres, Aphrodite, and John for their presentations. And you will find that these presentations are really highlights on what is expecting you in the sessions tomorrow and on Thursday. So please make sure, because that's today you got the introduction, but in those sessions tomorrow and Thursday, the dialogue about these themes will continue, and obviously it's very important that you make yourself your own voice heard. We then looked at GN4, quite a long time ahead, but already very well planned and very detailed planned. Thanks to Dorte for that. And then Niels put the perspective into our current work again today. So I think that's been a very nice and rounded day for all of us. I think it was, personally, I thought it was very interesting. So I'd like to thank the program committee again for putting this plenary together, and thank them again also for putting the sessions tomorrow and Thursday together. So again, I would say I would like you to applaud a little bit to Aphrodite, Anne, Annabelle, Guy, Miro, Walter, Jim, Gyöngi, myself, and also Jesse. And please join us in a round of applause. And those of you that really like timetables, you will have noticed that we're bang on time. 2 more minutes until we have our evening drinks, and that's of course here thanks to Brooke and his clock. So thank you very much, Brooke, for supporting this. Right, and now before you all go, I need you to pay a little bit of attention yet again. I know it's late, but so evening drinks tonight are a tradition that we have implemented a couple of years ago in the symposium. We will have these drinks at the end of every day. You're not just supposed to come drink your beer and, you know, sort of go, but it's a continuity of getting to know each other, of making this your event, of talking to the person that you've never wanted, that you always wanted to talk about, talk to. And of course, it's also to ensure that you get all your points from the very interesting persons game, and trade your stickers. So please make sure that you do that. And then this particular evening at 7 o'clock, we will be leaving in the buses to the Technical Museum, or Technische Museum here in Vienna. Gyöngi tells me it's a bit of a change of plan, so we were originally expecting the buses right in front of the hotel, but that's not the case. You will have to move a little bit. And the buses will pick us up between the hotel and this particular building, so just in the middle of it. I mean, it should be obvious, but if you don't see it right in front of you, just move a little bit to the right, and that's where the buses should be standing. It depends, I mean, you know, God knows how many stickers you will have by then. Michael, please.
I would just like to mention that some of the open call participants will again, after we finished here, be out there, in particular the applications and tools area and authentication area. Okay, well, good. But I go back to the Technical Museum now. You will have about an hour's time to have a look around the museum, and please make use of that. We can walk around freely, and then dinner will start. It's not a set dinner, so you will have different food stations, and then you will have tables. So we will not make you sit down to a proper dinner, but we have, there will be tables where you can stand and eat. But the aim again is to mix and mingle, as always. And then the return buses from the museum will leave between 11 and 11:30 to come back here to the hotel. If you're later than that, you need to pay your own taxi, I think. So, and with that, I thank you again for all your attention. Enjoy the evening tonight and the sessions tomorrow and Thursday. And please, again, remember this is your event. You make the most out of it. And if you don't make the most out of it, and it's for whatever reason that you don't like, please let us know. Do not take a grudge and say, I'll never come again. Let us know, and for that, use the evaluation forms. Speak to us directly, but the program committee would be very, very thrilled to get a lot of feedback from you. And also, if you've liked it, please also let us know, because that also, of course, gives us an indication of where we're going. So, thank you very much. Good evening. Have a nice evening, and enjoy the time at the 2013 GN Symposium. Thank you.